Yo, you listening to the Oprah Rose Show with TT and GG, and yeah, get it poppin'.
Thoughts. Everything begins with thoughts.
She's a slut, she's a hoe, she's this, she's that.
We say to girls, you can have ambition, but not too much.
It's about people being uncomfortable with women owning their sexuality.
What is the truest, highest vision that you hold for yourself?
I'm a real ass bitch, and I'm gonna get everything that I'm gonna get on my own.
I know for sure. You don't get what you wish for. You get what you believe.
Hi.
Hi, guys.
What's up? What's up?
I'm TT.
I'm Gigi.
And I'm Dee.
And this is episode 177 of the Oprah Rose Show. I think this will essentially be a week off. So y'all had enough time to catch up on anything that you have now missed.
Oh, yeah.
Write in any of your questions and comments to the Oprah Rose Show at gmail.com. As always, like, subscribe, tell a friend to tell a friend.
First,
I feel like
hold on before you even start. T got on her Howard sweatshirt. I don't know if y'all.
Oh, you know, I was going to start it off. Let me move the camera down. I was going to start it off with that. I'm going to actually do the whole episode just like
Shout out
this.
to the HU.
And y'all know I am not the Howard person that walks in a room and everybody knows I went to Howard. Like today when I said that, I was like, oh, I'm going to be an insufferable Howard person. Everybody's like, you can't.
Finally.
You never do it.
You paid the tuition.
Yeah, I never do it. Exactly.
Right.
And I was like,
Paid
I
all
paid
that
my
money.
tuition. So yeah, I was like, I am going to, we would be remiss, obviously, if we did not just briefly touch on the inauguration. It was beautiful. It was amazing.
I almost shed a thug tear.
Yes.
It was, it was amazing.
To see it, and even like from a blended families, and we have a Latina up there mixing songs, and
let's get loud.
Let's get loud.
How J-Lo?
We had some Dior One sighting, a nice $14,000 shoe just up there chilling. Order was restored. Okay.
Order. It was amazing. Yeah, the outfits we had monochromatic looks from the body of the grandchildren. This has obviously been a very long time coming. That everybody, I think, is so happy to be rid of this man who could not even honorably pass the torch and had to have Mike Pence do it. But this is not what we're here to talk about.
I'm just so glad he was a stand-up guy and actually went to the inauguration. That was just disrespectful. But he ought to not be called president. I'm not even gonna say his name anymore. But
I was going to say the same thing. I don't even think we should give it anymore.
No,
we're not even
done.
Yeah,
we're doing now.
That man, that orange man, Cheeto.
I happen to have on orange right now, funny enough.
Oh, shout out to him and you.
Look at that.
Right. I love that for you.
Got your maid outfit on today. Hey, maid.
Hey, maid.
And I think we could probably we're gonna have to do a whole other Patreon about it. But we have two guests today, y'all. We're just gonna get to it. Just get in there.
So excited.
So super duper excited. I think we were talking, it was maybe 2 months ago, and Alyssa, everybody knows Alyssa brought up this podcast and she tells us the premise, and I was like, what? Okay. And I think a week went by, I forgot about it. And then I'm driving and I couldn't find any music to listen to. So I was like, oh, let me listen to this podcast she was talking about. I listened to for the first time for 4 hours straight. Hit her immediately and was like, oh my God, this is so good. Why didn't you make me listen to this initially? It's so good. And then I think the next day I told you guys, I was like, nah, y'all, you have to hit play. You have to start this. And then we all, our text thread, that was the only thing we were talking about at one point, was
the whole day.
The whole day. I mean, we would go on a Zoom and I would go make lunch and was like, play, let me finish episode 9. So I could just hit we were all addicted. We were obsessed.
Girl, he turned the camera around. The computer
around. Yes. And it's so
there
funny,
were so many moments.
I was listening during work too. I would in between meetings, all right, let me just hit play. I'm out of a meeting. And then 6 o'clock we would come in, make lunch. all right, so where you at now in the podcast? Like, what's going on now? And I'm like, child, they done went into the emails.
Yeah, it was definitely like
a movie.
It was a lot. So without further ado, since y'all like, what the hell y'all talking about? We have Jason and Andrea from the Cheat Code Podcast.
Hello.
Hey,
Hey. What's up?
New York's own.
Right. New York's
very own.
Born and raised.
I know before we started, we like had to fan out over y'all before we even did this, but you know, I just have to reiterate like how well the podcast was done. Y'all had music, y'all had sound bites when stuff got real nail biting and it was heart thumping.
Yeah.
And there was like cliffhanger. It was like better than Power Book 3. It was better, you know, because Power Book 3 is only a shit. Right. It was giving
It ain't even out yet. This
I know. I
Power Book 3.
I don't think that joint is out yet.
I meant two. Tariq Baby Ghost. It was better than Tariq Baby Ghost.
I can't. Wait. So do y'all want to tell us about the podcast, The Cheat Code?
Oh no, I wasn't done.
But
now
you didn't
I'm
even name the damn podcast. Wait, did you even say the name, girl?
I did. Yeah, I said it. I was
Okay.
right. I did. Yeah, I'm like, I did. But yeah, tell us about in your own words, y'all tell us about the podcast.
It's first of all, thank y'all.
you for having us.
Yeah,
Yes,
really.
yes.
Like, you know, this was the response to what I don't even know what I was trying to do. I was trying to tell an honest story, you know, like that, and have a conversation about things that people don't often talk about, especially in our community. And I think, you know, your response and the overwhelming response was so appreciative of the candor and the transparency.
And we got dragged as well.
We got dragged.
I believe it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So to start off, so we are 10, almost 11 years removed from everything that happened in the cheat code. So it's been a decade. We've had lots of time to process and what have you. But the basis of the podcast, for anyone who doesn't know, is about how Jason and I came to be. We have been together now for the past 10 years, but we were both married to other people when we met.
Mm-hmm.
And it is basically the story of our affair told over 10 episodes.
Mm-hmm.
And we did not set out to do that kind of podcast. We just set out to do a podcast where we were talking about, you know, playing expert on shit that nobody asked us about, you know, just talking about things.
Right.
Wow.
And we happened to know one of the members of Domino Sound, who's our producers. I've known her for many years. She was actually friends with my ex-husband. That's how I met her, like, you know, through my ex-husband. And they put out another podcast called Raising Rebels, and we met them. We met the producers, and we told them that we wanted to do this podcast. And for some reason, we got in a story.
Well, a podcast.
A podcast.
Yeah.
Yes, we wanted to do a podcast.
Mhm.
And we had gotten a regular casual story about how we met, and we were telling them the story. And they were like, hold up. What? So as we talking, they're taking notes. And when we're finished, they pretty much turned it around. Was like, we've laid out like 8 episodes of a podcast. This is your podcast.
Right.
And we were like, I don't know about this.
Personal.
That's a lot.
Hey, that's a lot.
That's a lot. But when, you know, I think one of the reasons that it landed, again, we can't take all the credit for how it came out, because we were talking about this earlier. Our producers were so, first of all, they had a lot of experience in this, and they were so just good. Like they had, you know, the music laid out and the, you know, the segmentation, and they led us through. And there's plenty of times I stopped. There was a couple of times Andrea and I got into a fight on the way over. It was like,
yeah, we like, we can't record today. We not feeling each other.
Wow.
It'll come through in the podcast.
I believe that.
That's real.
Yeah, that's super real.
It is real.
But it really, for us, we always say this, we're not even the 10th most scandalous story like this that we know. And so, and you, right. So, and we know people personally who have more intense, more dramatic stories like this, but no one is talking about them. And so being 10 years removed and going through what we went through, we are not in any way advocating doing what we did, it's more around having the conversations, because this shit happens.
Mm-hmm.
And when we pretend that it doesn't happen, or that everybody's relationship takes a particular path, that's bullshit. So I'm like, if we're the 10th most scandalous story, and our podcast is, people are like, whoa, I'm like, imagine if we were having real conversations around this, and imagine if people of color were having real conversations around this. Imagine if church folks were having real conversations around this.
Oh, Lord.
So,
roof gonna blow off.
Right. So that's how we kind of got to, fine, let's do it, and we'll figure out how to tell the world this is coming.
Right. And I think that was a big thing for me, is that having these conversations in our community.
Yeah.
You know, as Black people especially, we all have problems. Everybody has problems. We so often hush our problems and tell our loved ones and our children especially, like, no, we don't talk about that. You know, we don't talk about, you know, cousin Pete that, you know, up in the back room, and we don't talk about, you know, auntie in the basement and all of that stuff. We don't talk about that because of whatever it is, you know, look or image or whatever it is we think is more important than having conversations about healing. And so we decided that let's see how it goes. We didn't expect.
And this has been some shit.
Yeah.
It's funny that you guys mentioned that you wanted to at least introduce the conversation of what a relationship in its entirety may look like, because I think in our conversation that we had in our little group chat is that we were like, yo, like these are married people. And I think that none of us are married, right? So it's like, and there was no judgment in that. It was just kind of like a look into reality, or what could potentially be yeah, you know, because all of us are like, you know, we have Daryl and T are in serious relationships, but that isn't a marriage, you know. And so it was just very, very interesting to just be able to digest a lot of what you guys experienced. How did y'all get to 10 episodes? Because you said that they mapped out like 8. Did you guys initially like say, okay, maybe we could do 2 more, or was it something like symbolic with that, or you just, that was where the story ended?
So Gigi, it'd be like if we were having dinner and you asked us to tell the story of how we met, and that's what we did. And then we just started talking about, you know, all where
the cutoffs would be.
Right. But you know, in that story from, you know, the day we met until the day we had the conversation with our team, all the scandalous shit that we went through in the process. And then so it kind of like developed from a story arc standpoint from there, like, okay, wait a minute, Johnny Johnson, wait a minute, you went to the hotel.
Of all names, Johnny Johnson.
You know, and all those things kind of gelled into, you know, the story arc.
And I think when we were thinking of natural cut points for things, 8 didn't feel finished. So because we were going to finish at when, you know, Jason moves, and we decided to go further into it and talk a little bit about after. And that's really what the last couple of episodes ended up being, was a little bit of the after story. Now it's been, that was like 6 years ago now. So there's a lot more to talk about, but it was kind of like
2014.
It was summer of 2014. So we went a little bit into, and those were the last 2 episodes. And that's how it kind of became, don't cut it at the move, talk after. Talk a little bit about it after.
Right. Okay. And I think even for the purpose of this conversation, like it's so much to discuss, and I know we ain't got that much time. So I almost just want to take it like the main points of like, you know, the journey of you guys. As I think it was it's so interesting that you guys had kind of like met before. You know, who had a picture of, you guys had a group photo. Okay. Yeah. You had a group photo, you know, and you're like, oh, we've met before. And I think a lot of times people think that New York is like this huge place when it's literally 1 degree of separation. Like, and I think y'all said like, if you can read and you Black, like everybody know each, like everybody knows each other. Like
4 spots
within a 15-year period,
right?
Within a 15-year period of being born. Like if you go from the like 68 to like 88, everybody knows.
Everybody, everybody knows everybody. So the fact that y'all had like, because then I think it was maybe by like episode 4, I was like, oh my gosh, this is like destiny and fate. I was like, oh my god, I was like, oh my god, I love this for them. So, it started off with that, you guys met and you were both unhappy in your relationships, in your marriages, and then kind of made this decision, obviously, to, pursue one another.
Yeah, just throw it out there.
Cheat. Okay.
Don't sugarcoat it, sis.
Like we get into it.
It's a safe space.
It's called the cheat code. I think, what were those like emotions? And I think, for both of you it seemed a little different. But what were those emotions like leading up to that? Like that, because like you said, that decision is very different when you're like flirting and it's cute and it's coy and it's sexy and it's like, oh, this is new. Everybody likes something new. It feels fresh and exciting. But when you make that decision to actually like lay down with somebody else, that line is like forever then been crossed.
That was a weighty decision.
You want to go first?
Yeah, I'll go first. I mean, we here. So that was a weighty decision. And I would say, I don't think when you decide to get married and you decide to get into it for real, no one goes in with, there are people who get married and understand that they're going to cheat their whole marriage. And we know these people. That's not how either of us started. Mm-hmm. And so when you decide, if you have really decided you're going to be in this thing and build a life with someone and have children and what have you, and my parents were married for 54 years, when we are like making this decision, it is a weighty decision to then decide that you're going to step out. And it's weird because part of that decision is you thinking foolishly that you're going to save yourself and save your marriage. Like, I'm going to stay in this, but in order to make myself happy and be able to get through this, I'm going to do what I need to do to make myself happy, because I can see that this is not going to make me totally happy. How can I do that? And again, it's hard because I think people talk to us now about marriage counseling and therapy and blah, blah, blah. And all of that is right. But when we were coming up and when we got married, the language that we have now, the thought around therapy and counseling, the thought about healing, nobody talked about that.
The thought about your own happiness.
Yeah, nobody was getting married
as an agenda. That wasn't the forefront of your agenda.
Like, we look back now with our internet eyes and we have real conversations, but we didn't have internet eyes then. Yeah. So like,
this is some new shit.
This is some new fangled shit.
It's healthy and it's great.
It's great.
It wasn't necessarily available.
We didn't get married. Like, for me, it was like realizing you're getting married because that's the life you thought you were going to have. So now you're in this life and you've made a commitment, but I have a good life. So I can't complain. Like, nobody was beating me. There was nothing like that, but I am dissatisfied. And I don't know that me and this person would ever really be satisfied with each other, but I've made a commitment to you and I love you. So I'm staying. How do I make myself happy? It sounds stupid now that I say it, but in the moment,
I don't think so.
Yeah, I'm like,
no.
Either. I think it's
that sound regular.
Yeah, I was like,
I had it, and to answer the question, I had the same experience. I felt relieved, if that makes sense. I felt like I can be. It's it's a reflection, or what occurs to me is like the 80-20 rule. So I was naive in the early stages of my marriage. I thought that, I had this very idealistic view of marriage.
And it's supposed to just work.
And you're supposed to be, at this level of happiness and engagement, and you're always supposed to find your mate attractive, and you're always supposed to be motivated to be your best self, and that shit doesn't happen. You know what I mean? It just doesn't. No. But life is like, life is not linear. Like life has ebbs and flows, and so the I don't know if it's the ebb or a flow. What's the bottom?
Whatever.
Ebb. Right.
I think that's ebb.
When you get to the ebb, I was like, I didn't know how to handle it, and I didn't know what that meant for my relationship. Like, is it breaking down? Is this just a phase? I can't say I had a lot of people to call on that had been married, happily married. I knew a lot of brothers that were married, you know what I mean? But I didn't have many models of the relationship that I wanted and I thought I had. And so as I got through it, I determined for myself that when I say got through it, as I moved through the difficult parts that we all will have in any relationship, I determined to myself or for myself that, okay, this ain't perfect. Nothing is. That makes sense. The person that I'm with is not necessarily the person that is going to make me wholly happy. I didn't know what that gap was yet. I hadn't determined that, but that's okay. I feel justified in doing this, so that's okay. So let me find that space. Let me find that 20. What I didn't know that it wasn't 80-20. It was like, 30-70, on the other end. But again, once I determined that, Andrew and I were going to sleep together, I was like, all right. Is it in a broken way? It made sense. It was like, because this is what people do. Like in the idea of, and I know I'm rambling a little bit, but I'm not talking about like a healthy relationship necessarily. I'm talking about staying together. And from what I knew of people staying together, you filled in the gaps. And and in that sense, this filled in the gap and allowed me to be more whole, to be able to stay in my relationship. And again, to your earlier point, that's broken, but that's what made sense to me at the time.
And we weren't trying to have an affair either. We were like, let's meet up once every 6 months and sleep together, and you have a good life. And that shit didn't happen. Okay, it was once a quarter.
Yeah.
Quarter. That was the plan.
Once he got on that flight to Vegas, I already knew what was about to happen. I was like, this man got on a flight.
Vegas be bringing the best out of people, the best or the worst.
Well, what happens in Vegas?
That was the problem. It was when your first time is in the Bellagio with the backdrop of the Strip.
Oh
yeah. And I had a whole budget.
So I had a whole outfit.
I had a gambling budget ready. We had dinner budgets.
I'm like, I came with changes of clothes.
Fire.
I love
you
it.
Should have.
I love it.
Would you say that marrying young or your first marriage is because you were younger? Would you say that was how you, I guess, maybe more so made mistakes with not knowing where you were, who you were fully, based off of how you just described, like filling in gaps in marriages and things like that, and prior to?
So I will say that is a whole episode, I think. That question, really, because
I don't know if it's young though. It's just not.
Well, I think that's a relative term. Right? In my experience, people who get together early, or I guess I'll say this, for us and for me in particular, I wasn't fully finished determining who I wanted to be, and choosing making lifelong decisions before I had figured out who I was what got me in trouble. And so what I'm saying is I shouldn't have bought a house with somebody at the age I did. I shouldn't have had children with someone at the age that I did, not because it didn't make sense at the time, but the human that I was becoming and that human that I was with ultimately diverged. And from what I understand and in my experience with people who get together, and we know people that have been together since junior high school.
Yes.
And together. Yeah. But being together and being in a healthy relationship are two different things at times. And the people that I know that have gotten together earlier in life, in my experience, have many more challenges than the people who, for one reason or another, have gotten together 35 on 40, early 40s.
I think, for me, I don't think it's an age. I think it is the place where you are with yourself. And I think there are people now who get married at 45 and still fuck this shit up because they have not done any kind of work on knowing who they are. And I think that, so Mike and I got together in college. And I think my idea of what marriage was and what marriage could be was very much formed by who was around me. I didn't know what I wanted for myself. I was afraid to be authentic because the way the person that I had my own abandonment issues. Mind you, never been abandoned, grew up with both my parents, all those things, but very much feeling like if I'm not pleasing and if I don't go along with the flow and the path that most people go along with, I will be somehow shunned or out. And that's a lot of reasons. That's youngest child thing, that's being raised West Indian shit, that's all types of crap. And so and so I made choices on who this woman I thought I should be was versus what I wanted. And so my ex-husband, great guy, all those things, but I should have known then that his stability, all those things, we weren't plugged into each other in that way. We got along, we laughed at some of the same things, all that stuff, but that's good friendship. And that could have stayed that way. I didn't necessarily need to, and on top of that, nobody modeled for us or talked to us about doing the work,
right?
And about keeping things fresh and about choosing your partner every day and about, what good sex looks like and could be like forever, and about knowing your own body so that you can know what you like. I grew up Catholic school, so I got all sorts of Catholic school guilt about anything sexual.
Same.
I mean, like shit. Who knew that you can enjoy yourself? Like learning that sex is like your body is divinely made for sex. Like your body is made for enjoyment. That shit, I learned that shit today.
Yeah.
Not today. Oh my God. So, getting married in my 20s, and my ex is 3 years younger than me. So we were just both figuring the shit out. And by the time we figured it out, we probably figured we shouldn't be together. So I think it's not necessarily, it's the kind of work you do and what your level of introspection and the work that if you're really going to show up as yourself and get married, then cool. When you don't show up as yourself and you get married or it's about the wedding day, I think it all goes to shit.
And it's not necessarily it may not be, you just may not know who you are.
Right.
And that's the thing. You just may not be finished figuring out who that person is. And then when you do figure it out, oh shit.
Hopefully this person can stay.
But I got two kids now.
Yeah.
And I got a mortgage and half a dog and all of that stuff. And it's like
half a dog?
Not half.
2.5 kids and a dog.
Right. Yes.
2.5.
I don't know. Whatever it is.
I got 2.5.
We got all that shit.
And then, then what? Like then what? Then what do you do?
It's sorry, keep going.
No, that's it. That's the thought.
I think it's so difficult because it's like, marriage is something that specifically for like women, it's always forced down your throat. Mm-hmm. And it's like, get married, you go to school, get married, have some babies, but nobody tells you how to stay there. Like that scene in Love Jones, and he's like, nobody tells you like how to be in.
Isaiah Washington said it.
Isaiah Washington, yeah, that scene with Isaiah Washington. He's like, nobody tells you, how to stay in it. And I think that was also like that's the refreshing part about you guys like detailing this experience, because it's not, there's still, to me, like there is accountability in the stuff that you guys speak about. It's not like either of y'all were just on some fuck shit. Like, nah, I'm just gonna go fuck this chick. Like there was a buildup and a real decision to make that, and not about hurting somebody else, but like, hey, this isn't working. And like you said, I want to stay, but I don't really know how to figure this out. I think, it's so complex. I literally just had this conversation about like marrying young. Literally 40 minutes before we started. And my boyfriend was like, no, you have to like know yourself. You have to do the work. Where I if I would have married young, I would have been a wreck. Like, I feel like I have changed every 5 years, I'm not the same person that I was at 31, at 33. So like, I know, marrying somebody at 21, like that's just really difficult. But then again, these societal pressures are just like marriage. And it's like, no, let's just like, there's time. Like, we have a little bit of time to figure things out. And then you get to know yourself. We never preach that. Like, hey, do you actually know who you are? Like most people probably can't even answer that question.
And then they tell women you don't have time.
That was the next thing I was going to say. And then it's like, hey, you don't have time. And it's like, I know, like I have 3 friends that are 40 and just got pregnant. Like and are still having babies. And I watch Ready to Love, and they be at 45 still trying to have babies and whatnot. So I was like, oh, there is time. Like, ain't nobody rushing me at this point. But yeah, like, again, it's all these things that we never even stop to ask, like the individual, like that has to be in a relationship with another person. These are two people coming together that, don't know each other. And it's like, all right, y'all, now make this work. But I don't even know myself. It's just
go ahead, figure it out.
If you look at the generations behind us, we are products of that. And so, my biological parents were married at 20, and they had, when they were 21 and 23. Imagine. And then I have a sister that's younger than me. And so by the time my biological parents were 24, they were married with 2 kids. So
I can't even imagine
exactly
that.
That's the model, because that's how it went.
I had on short shorts and
went in the
like
40s and 50s.
Same.
But what I'm saying is,
I'm sorry. I do this all the time. Sorry.
You do this all the time. What I'm saying is, there's no model for that. There's no blueprint for figure it out when I don't even know, but there's no blueprint for when you're ready. There is no, because to your point, being ready is usually an age, right? So like, oh, college, well, you got your master's degree. Even now, you got your law degree. You're a doctor. When you gonna be ready to have kids? Like when you get married, when you get in a house.
Yeah.
What if you don't want that shit? Like, what if you don't want it right now? What if you don't?
And the woman spends her time getting ready because of time factor. You know how many dudes I know that were like, well, I married her because she was there the longest. She's not me.
Right.
I feel like I owe her. I'm fucking up if I don't marry her. And I'm like, so imagine you're the woman and you feel ready, and the dude you marrying is just like,
second place. Yeah, this consolatory prize.
I'm just gonna show up.
Yeah.
In the tux.
How is that working?
Yeah.
How is that working?
You're going to cheat. I feel like that is a recipe for disaster.
Absolutely. Which is a good thing that you said that, T, because for the listeners who haven't listened to the cheat code, which even though we're having this conversation, please go listen to it. But how relieved were y'all when y'all found out that your own partners was cheating too? Because Andrea, you're Scorpio too, like me. I'm like, oh, well, I'll cheat in peace. I don't even need to know that you cheat too. I just need enough reason. But if I know that you're cheating, it's like, oh, fair game. Like,
it's on.
Say it. You know how that was that this Negro tried to cop an attitude. I'm like, but if we both cheating, why are you yelling at me? Why would you have a conversation like civil people? And here you are, all preachy and shit, and you doing the same thing. This is what I did not understand. I was like, so if we're here, can we just level set? But because he felt justified in it and felt like I wasn't justified in it, but it was a relief. When I found that stuff on the computer, man, listen, it was a sick happiness. Because I'm like, I'm about to go off.
And he wasn't right. He was trying to make you feel so dirty.
Shower feeling like he was and I was like, I'm about to go in, and I feel so good about it. And of course, afterwards, I was like, oh my God, he was cheating on me.
Yeah.
I was devastated. In that moment, I was like, and the other thing was, I naively really didn't think he was. I really didn't. I had a belief, and this is going to sound judgy, but it's not, because I don't think he's worse than me for, like, there's nothing like that. But in the time where we were, I had a real belief in him and a real doubting of myself. Like, I just can't make it work. I really believe that whole, he's trying as hard as he can, and I'm just broken. And so it was, so wait, you've been sitting here cheating, and this ain't even the first one, and you making me feel like I'm not working hard enough. So I was livid, and I was disappointed, and I was also super relieved, because I was like, okay, so Jason, when can we have the sex? when I found out,
sex,
right? The sex, because when I found out we hadn't had sex yet, and I was like,
"That's right."
Yeah,
that's right. He was ready to divorce you, and you ain't even touched the dick. You said.
So I'm like, Jason, so the sex, right? So we can have this now. Now I feel good. Now I'm good,
and it's good, right?
Right. So like you're saying it's good, like you've been saying it's good.
I'm like, yeah. No doubt. I got you.
I think you guys do such a great job of also the memory of these events that happen. You talk about how this happened like 2009, 2010. And so I think it does a really good job of like talking about how technology is brought into this too. So like emails, Facebook, Blackberries, and sites and things like that.
BBM was for cheaters. BBM? I used to literally, I am proud, but like I literally, even on my iPhone, I was talking to someone that was involved. I'm not proud, but we had the BBM app on iPhone. I was like, oh, this is some real different, like this is the next level. This is the Snapchat of cheat.
This is before your generation, Alyssa.
Like so it's for
I didn't even have a BlackBerry. I got it to cheat with this Negro.
So you had a sidekick, right?
Yeah, it's a little church
real cheating shit, boy.
Real cheating shit.
When I practiced law, when I was practicing law, I had clients who were into other things, and their device of choice was a BlackBerry because they're like, "Yo, feds can't touch me on this." Like they can't come on this. It was that locked down. The communications on those joints was so hard to get into.
And now we got Russia all up in our shit.
Yeah. That's that iPhone
shit.
That's that iPhone shit. We got to go back to the
to the BlackBerry.
BlackBerry.
Yeah, no, we kept saying, Andrea, your memory was like that of like, what do we say, like an elephant? Because you literally remember everything as far as like where you were and what was happening during that time.
Bro, it ain't just cheat code shit. Andrew remembers
in life
everything.
That was personal. That's personal.
Everything. I was like, that happened? Like, no, it happened. It happened on this day.
Oh my gosh. So I almost want. I'm gonna get back to what y'all was talking about with the sex part. So I'm like, Andrea. So okay, I'm a Leo. Like since we doing signs, and we're very big on our signs. So I'm a Leo. So I'm petty and controlling at like kind of like the root of everything. So, but when you told him not to take his ex-wife to Atlanta and to make sure that they were using condoms, I was like, the nerve.
The Leo said the nerve.
I am a Scorpio, so I cannot do or say or stand at any point. And you could have dated me 5 years ago, and I feel like I can call you and be like, "So this is what's happening."
And cast.
Be a lamb, and do what I'm saying right now.
I love it. She was in there like, off with your head. Oh, next.
Right, and I'm a little witchy, so there's that part too. So
I love a witch.
I'm a black witch, so yeah.
It is what it is. I had to get there, and now I'm here. So I think we had come to a point in our relationship, because I say relationship, you was married, and I was no longer. So this is like 2012.
This is summer of 2012.
Yes. And so we had gotten to a point where I have already had conversations with his ex-wife. We have already, we have stripped this thing back. Everybody knows what's going on. They're in a place where they're living together, but not sort of together, sort of not. I was trying not to be naive, but at the same time, I was like, you can't have him like this. This is you being, in my mind, this is you being stupid. She is at this point, and this is again, perception. Obviously, she has a whole side to it. And, you learn and you realize perceptions and all those things. But for me, y'all just had a situation where she wilded out. You're going to your grandmother's birthday. Why does she need to come? Like, she don't, like, that doesn't make any sense.
Oh, yeah, I got it, though. But I was like, go off, sis. Ask for what you want.
It don't make no sense to me. Like, why would you allow her into your family space when one, y'all not really, two, she just wilded out on you. And so, And her thought was, I'm going to go see family down there. And I was like, she ain't going to go see no family. She going to be in the house. And y'all know what happened if you listen to the podcast.
I was just
got dragged in that house.
I was just like, yeah, I love you very much. I need to figure this out. And I don't need, like, I can't manage all of this right now. Like, I don't have the capacity to figure out how I'm going to wrap up my marriage, because that's some serious shit, and make sure that the most important things are taken care of, which are my children, and also have a whole relation. And you were right in, you had points. Some things I didn't agree with you on, some things I did, but overall I was like, I get it, but I can't right now. Like, I have to. And we had these conversations, and I know I was a bit, what's the word I'm looking for? I wasn't dismissive, but I also wasn't
in a situation.
I wasn't engaging either, because I'm like, I get it. What do you want me to do?
I mean,